demo day, blijven staan voor die P. En ik steef een BDP, maar dat doe ik niks meer mee. Demo day, blijven staan voor die P. En ik steef een BDP, maar dat doe ik niks meer mee.
Hi, and welcome to How to Demo the podcast. I'm Laura Peters, and I'm currently doing my final master project at the Faculty of Industrial Design at the Eindhoven University of Technology. With this podcast, I'm gathering and sharing insights on the why, how, and what of the demo day together with staff, students, and alumni of industrial design. If you've got no clue what I'm talking about, I invite you to go check out the very first episode of this podcast series, as it explains everything about my graduation project and gives you a good insight into why the rest of the content of this podcast is the way it is. In today's episode, I'm joined by someone who describes himself as Director of Education, coach at Industrial Design, lover of design and design prototypes. It is, of course, Stephan Wensveen. If one thing became clear to me from our conversation, it is that he loves, but really, really loves industrial design, and he wants to do everything in his power to let us grow as a community without limiting our individual freedom to explore. Listening back to the recording, I noticed that the questions I asked him may have been quite critical and maybe a bit confronting to him as Director of Education, but I was just so interested in his perspectives and ideas on building communities and cultivating innovative energy that I was sort of oblivious to this because I just really wanted to know what he was thinking. You asked for it, and here he is. I hope this episode lives up to your expectations. Enjoy my conversation with Stephan Wensveen. So welcome to another episode of How to Demo the podcast. Today I'm joined by our Director of Education, Stephan Wensveen, who everyone wanted to be on the podcast.
Oh, that's good
Welcome.
to know.
Could you maybe start by introducing yourself to our audience?
Well, I'm Stephan Wensveen, Director of Education, but also a coach here and a lover of design and design prototypes. Started here in, I think, 2002, so I'm already quite a long time here in Eindhoven, being trained as an industrial design engineer from Delft. Educated there, actually born there, but I actually made the move to Eindhoven because I think Eindhoven is far more cooler than Delft is when it comes to design and design education. So that's why I'm still here and still loving it. And now in my new job as Director of Education, very proud to be responsible, partly, of course, because we carry the responsibility all together, and that's why I'm still here.
Cool. Well, maybe to dive a bit deeper into how you got here. So you started out in Delft, and then you made the switch to here. What did you start doing here?
I was doing my PhD in Delft on the alarm clock and emotionally intelligent products. And then my research team, Kees Overbeke, Tom Dinigat, and Joep Frens moved to Eindhoven. And I had to make the decision, do I stay in Delft and being supervised by people that don't know me so well, and I don't know them well, or do I move with them to Eindhoven, which was this place that I was 2 hours away from Scheveningen, where I lived at that point, and decided I'll come to Eindhoven. Also partly because of the focus. We were focusing more on interaction design, and in Delft they stayed more close to traditional, what I would say now, traditional industrial design. So the topic, and when I actually was here and being engaged in the education, I realized that I really like this way of educating. Mm-hmm. There's far more interest in the person, the personal development, the actual people designing, and what we realized in Delft, we knew the name of every bad student because they kept on coming back. And in Eindhoven, we knew the names of every good student because they kept on coming back and improving. And I think the open-endedness of the design projects, the close connection to what I would say is the real world, so authentic projects, experts coming from Philips, experts coming from hospitals, and the idea of a student as a junior employee really appealed to me because I thought, like, this is the way that we can bring design forward. And I still love this way of educating students. That's why I stayed and want to be here.
Nice. So for PhD, you...
For PhD, I went to assistant professor here, and at a certain point, I moved to Denmark to, in a way, extend my view on design and bring in the Nordic perspective, which is very much on participation, in a way, democratizing design to understand from the core of what that means. And there I realized how a design approach is so much embedded in its local context. And I think participatory design works really well because everybody in the Nordic countries believes in participation and in the true notion of democracy. And here I see that design is really rooted in Brainport. It's rooted in design as Eindhoven as capital of Dutch design. And I think that's very nice that design education really resembles the place where it is, being influenced by its surroundings, but also influencing its surroundings in its mutual exchange.
Well, that's really interesting. I never thought of it that way, but I am actually discussing these things with another student because she's now doing her research project in Kuwait, and we're like, in some way we're doing the same process, but it's different. We should write a paper about this.
And also realize that the process that is taught in Delft is really an engineering process, and they think, and maybe that's to a certain degree true, that you can apply the engineering process in every domain of the world. And I don't think that's completely true. And I think you should be sensitive to the context where you're designing in, and the approach and perspective of people on design. And that's different if you're designing within a very democratic community as in Denmark, or whether you're in a more global community that is then might be Delft, or whether you're designing within a very local community in the sense that it's Brainport and combining it with the design academy. And I think these are different. And I think I want the students to be aware of the context that they're in order to then, if they move to a different context, that they first become sensitive to this context in order to better design for and with that context.
Yeah, because you mentioned before that our study or our way of designing has a close connection to the industry. Is that what is specific to our environment here, or how does that
partly it's industry, and industry with a lot of technology. It's also industry with innovation. And what you now see is also that the local government, so the Eindhoven region, is really supportive of this innovation. I mean, they allow people to change street furniture in order to experiment with light. They do experiments on Stratums Eind. They involve designers in thinking about new neighborhoods. There are all these technology companies where they really try to provide a better culture also, so people actually want to move to Eindhoven. And it's that environment of innovation, technology, and design, creativity that I think is essential for where we are.
And does that, well, so our environment now really caters to the way that we are educated then. How does that then translate to well, other environments? What is your view on that?
Well, like I said, I hope our students become sensitive for what makes an environment and what makes a context. In order for then, if they move to a different context, that they become sensitive for. So what is the attitude towards innovation here? I mean, where is the creativity located? What does collaboration mean? Do I need to be very democratic in my collaboration? Or can I be more of an authority on design because people are not that collaborative, and therefore I need a different attitude to design in order to better fit to the context?
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And this is really a new view for me as well. It's nice. Well, as you know, this podcast is sort of focused on the demo day. Within the way that we are educated to basically support innovation with design, maybe you could say.
Yeah.
How does the demo day fit within our semesters, our education? What is your view on that?
I think Demo Day started out as really being part of the assessment. Part of the assessment where students really demonstrated their working prototypes, because I think that's also one of the main, one of the strong points of our education. Our students are capable of making working prototypes. It's not just a nice rendering or a nice sketch and then maybe a technological principle in a rough mock-up, but actually the combination of the two. And they're working, you can look at it, you can touch it, which I also think is very important, which differentiates us a bit from the design academy where you're not allowed to touch and only can admire admire the design and admire the designer that is capable of making such a beautiful thing, but you're not allowed to touch it.
Yeah.
And I think here the main difference is you are allowed to touch it, because we learn so much if people actually start interacting with things. So but first it started as being part of the assessment. Then we realized also what it means. I mean, it's a very transparent way of showing to each other what people are making. So it also was in a way benchmarking what our students were doing, and to somehow see a level of these demonstrators. So first it was purely an educational exercise. Slowly other people came and visit. And at a certain point, I thought, like, also because we were 15 years old, which means that the very first students that did the entire bachelor master students were 10 years in industry.
Yeah.
And the population of alumni only grew bigger. It also meant that the population of alumni that didn't have a connection to the department anymore was growing bigger, and the distance with alumni. So at a certain point, I thought, like, why not, instead of being focused internally, try to focus outside as well, and in a way give back to the community that helped develop us, and therefore allow people to come to our demo day in order to see what's going on with their department.
Yeah.
Also give clients the opportunity to not just only see the projects where they were client for, but also see what other students were doing. And in a way, then it also became a mix of feedback that students would be receiving, because otherwise it was just their coach, and they were only focused on the assessment part of the project. But students never really got, like, what do you actually think of my design? Do you think it is valuable, or is it beautiful? Is it useful? So suddenly it became all these different things, and what I always stress is the importance of diversity and getting diverse perspectives on design and for design. And that meant that the audience of such a demo day should be able to provide that diverse perspective. Instead of just coaching on and being assessed, also having people from industry or people from other expertise areas. So there's a difference if Matthias Rautenberg is looking at your prototype, or whether it's Frank Delbecin, or whether it's Miguel Bruns, or it's Annika Hupveld. I mean, there are all these different perspectives on your design, and I think that will only make your design stronger if you realize these different perspectives in a way.
But then it's still, actually the focus is still education.
The focus is still education, so that's that's the educational part.
Yeah.
But the other way around, people from outside get a feel for where design is moving.
Yeah.
And I had a very nice, interesting talk last demo day with Jan Bellon, and I asked him, so why are you here? And he says, well, for many reasons. One is I have 2 students that are doing internships with my company and they're presenting their work, and I give feedback on that. He says, I'm also scouting for new talent. He says it's also in a way a reunion, and I meet friends from studies and teachers, and I can have a social talk with them. And also get a feel for, so where's design moving? So what are the new trends? What are the new technologies being used? Is there maybe a new aesthetic going on? And that's the other part, and then more looking outside for what it means for people to come in and have an idea of where design is heading. Then we also realized, and I think that became far more clear last demo day, that especially for graduating students, this is also their exposure for their next career. And in a way, we often think like, okay, we're preparing people for the next step, from the bachelor, for the master, but actually we're all preparing them for the life after their education. So instead of presenting your work with an inside perspective, am I doing well as a design student? It should also come with an outside perspective, am I doing well for finding the right job afterwards? So I think for master students, final master students, it really became their exposure to an outside audience. And then suddenly, I mean, it becomes a mix of a different perspective on why we have a demo day.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do hear sort of the difference between demo day for bachelor students and at least graduating master students.
It's also nice that there are these different levels. So what I think is nice is that bachelor students can see what they can achieve. For example, in the masters, but also in fellow students, and that raises the level, because somebody that's really good on technology can see like, wow, but they have a really pretty prototype. I mean, their material finish is very, very good, and the other prototype, wow, the user involvement is really strong. While people look at his prototype like, wow, the technology is such a high level, maybe for my next project I can use some of that technology or be inspired by what he's doing. So it's also in that sense an exchange of perspectives, and exchange of possibilities, being inspiring, having a new criteria for what is a good technology, what is good user involvement, what is a business perspective. So in that sense, it raises the level and the criteria for what we think is good design.
I really like how you now again really relate to the prototypes, because you mentioned like we have our students make experiential prototypes. How do you? I'm more in the sort of social design area, and I think that more and more students are doing a bit more of those kinds of projects, which don't directly have like the classic physical prototype, so to say. How do you have maybe a perspective on that, or how you can show them? Because I know that a lot of students feel this pressure to also have this experiential prototype, while it might not always be appropriate for the type of project that they're doing.
No, so there's a clear difference between demo day, because it's a demonstration, and it's not prototype day. I mean, it's not showing your prototype. Yeah. And sometimes students feel like, okay, that's what I need to show there, my working prototype. And it used to be true. I think it's no longer true only, and I think now we should really focus on demonstration. And I, in the broader sense, would like to see it as a demonstration of value. So where do you provide the value? And the value can be in showing your technological invention, and also demonstrating your technological skills. It can also demonstrating aesthetic value in combination with technology. It can also be a demonstration of societal value. And that means that you need to present your prototype and, in a way, your demo in a different way. So people, as students, should also be aware of, what do I actually want to demonstrate? Think about, do I want to demonstrate the social value, or do I want to demonstrate the experience that you will have in, or demonstrating the functionality, or demonstrating how other people appreciated my design? Because I'm designing for the elderly, and most of the people that are walking around are young people, so maybe I should not demonstrate the experience to young people, but should demonstrate what elderly actually appreciated about my design. So they become more conscious on what do I actually want to demonstrate here. And it's not a demonstration of, look, my prototype is working, which is often the case, and I will come back to that. But it's a demonstration of value. And if you see it, that can be experiential value, it can be social value, it can also be economic value. So please, if you have done a business plan behind it, demonstrate it together with the physical thing that you're proposing, or the interactive thing, or the social thing that you're proposing. But really focus on what do I actually want to demonstrate. And there are probably multiple things that you want to demonstrate, but be aware of what you're demonstrating.
Yeah, that's nice. I think that's also really because, well, everyone works on their vision and identity, and you really, the further on you are in your education, you really have this sense of the value that you want to contribute also, and what you're good at doing as well. So, yeah, it fits, surprisingly. Do you think that the way that the demo day is currently set up, that invites students to present values rather than prototypes? Or sort of also the state of mind that's around now surrounding your demo day?
No, not yet. And also this is my perspective on things, and it might not be that everybody agrees on that perspective, which is fine. Because some coaches are, no, it should be about your working prototype. You should demonstrate that the technology works. So the other would say, like, no, you should really demonstrate the finish and your material use, or you should demonstrate the study that you've done because you've done a research project, and then demonstrate the knowledge that you've generated. So really, I would like students to have this discussion with themselves, but also with their coaches. So what do I actually want to demonstrate? And that's something that is changing more and more. And I think also because these different perspectives are occurring during the demo day, that students become aware of, oh, but I thought that this was the value, but most people actually comment me on that other part. And that's and that they realize that maybe what they thought was the original value can change in the course of a demo day. And that's also why the demo day is not the final presentation, but it's the demo day where you still have a few weeks in order to get a better understanding of what is the actual value of what I've designed. And in that sense, it's, in educational terms, still formative feedback. It can form your argumentation for your design, or form the value of your design. But I think that's a process that's slowly going around.
Yeah, because it feels like if you want to approach the demo day more in that way, it shouldn't be like the Wednesday before or the Wednesday or Monday before the demo day. We're going to clear out the space and set it up, and then just have a nice poster.
No.
That doesn't seem to align with what you are describing.
No.
You mentioned that you would like to also touch on the move to Atlas.
No, first maybe the timing, because there's also some what we realized before the demo day were in 2 days, Thursday and Friday. But still in an educational setting, the students that knew that their coach was coming on Friday were still working on Thursday on their designs.
Yeah.
And we realized, okay, this is not, because the students that do want to present on Thursday are then bothered by the people that are still working on their designs. So we decided, okay, we make a clear cut. On Wednesday, you can work till late, but then it should stop.
Yeah.
And the Thursday of not having an event was for multiple reasons. One is that students had a full day to take rest, to get a shower,
Very important.
very important, to get some sleep, but also for a moment of rest and maybe a reflection that they should realize that it's not a demonstration that their prototype is working. And it's about demoing the prototype. They actually reflect a bit on, I should demonstrate the value. And that is not maybe through demonstrating the working of the prototype, but demonstrating the value. So that they have a full day of relaxation to, okay, what do I actually want to demonstrate? And have a moment of peace and quietness, and again, in order to be fresh and take a bit of distance from the things that they are putting there, but actually the story that they want to tell. The other reason for the Thursday was to also, I think, for coaches, and then I'm talking more from my own experience also, that on Thursday I could just walk around without being, in a way, disturbed. But can I tell you about my prototype? Yeah. No, actually just want to walk around and want to see. So for me it was a chance to just walk around in peace and quiet and just read the things that they're putting there, look at them, reflect a bit on it, be amazed by something. Wow, this is different, because this is my way of walking around. I really want to see what is new. So can we find new seeds that may be the next trends within our own education, and where are they, and how are they being presented? It also gave me an opportunity to see, so which students do I actually need to assess, and can I already, based on this, have an idea of, okay, wow, now I have a better understanding of where I should ask, or what I should put my critique on. For some squads, it was also an opportunity to invite their network and have a more closed celebration and a closed presentation of the work. So that Thursday was, for a lot of reasons, a bit of rest, an idea to scout around for work related. Also an ability to scout around for projects that are, especially in the June demo day for Mind the Step, to see like, okay, which projects have been presented and what is the status of their current design at the moment. So it was a day where we could do many things without the hustle of the Friday demo day. Yeah. And then the Friday demo day is really about the energy and the in a way the mess and the things that are going on the busy demo day. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I meant my question more in the sense that the process of leading up to this demo day, that it's really integrated in your design process as well, because it is really nice to hear this explanation of the differences in the setup with the break day in between. That's I think that is a really good idea. Yeah, that's my So you have seen quite a lot of demo days. Do you maybe have some examples of projects where or presentations of projects where you really felt that people really captured this value that they wanted to present, or presentations that you thought like, oh yeah, that was a really cool one?
Okay, I think I'm a bit biased, but...
Well, all my coaches are, so that's no problem.
That's no problem. I really liked one of the very first demo days where wearable sensors was presented. And this partly had to do with the inherent value of wearables is where everybody accepts that things look good. Because it has a relationship to fashion, it also has a relationship to your body, and you want to look good when you present your work or when you're wearing certain things. The level of materiality. So the level of presenting was inherent in wearable sensors. So they really made an effort into presenting the entire work as a collection, also presenting the work as individual things. The nice thing then was that other squads, when they visit the demo day of the wearables, was like, wow, look how this, it looks so much better, and look at the material finish and how they were taking care of things. And then other squads like, oh, we should do that too next year. And then next year their level was raised and they went back to wearables, and I thought like, wow, again, it's so much better than the previous year, because each year people want to improve the last year. And this raised the level, I think, of presentations. So that's always why I love walking around there. I also now, Director of Education, forcing myself to really walk around and see the different squads, and also I like when they make an effort to really show like, this is our community, and this is what we think is important.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I look at how squads present themselves as little design communities with their own sense of aesthetic and an attitude towards design. And then I also really look at things that are different.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I'm also a bit fed up with laser-cutted MDF with blinking lights.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the
then
rainbow cubes.
Yeah, and then yes, and then maybe nicely finished with in white, where these boxes with blinking lights, and that are, you really need to know the story behind it in order to make it meaningful. So I'm really looking for also a new aesthetic. So when people really pay attention to the material finish, one, because I think it's very important, and also the material finish demonstrates, if you can spend that much time on the materials, then you probably spend also a lot of time on the thinking behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thinking behind it is done, and how I present, and I still have time to really pay attention to the details.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a marker of quality, and then I'm interested in also the thinking behind it.
It shows that there's a plan.
Yes, yeah. I'm also walking around, and if people really approach me and ask me, like, okay, can I explain something about my project, and I really value your feedback, then I then take time. Mm-hmm. If they don't, then I just walk past until I see something that triggers my attention, and then I engage. Also with students that I've coached before, and I see how they have developed. Because maybe I coached them as a second year, and now they're presenting the final bachelor project, and I feel like, okay,
what have you been up to?
What have you been up to? I mean, how did you develop? Because there you were really weak at such, and now I can see that so much it improved, or I really see your identity now in your final work. Mm-hmm. So that's also what I look for. So how do people develop over, or since the last project, or maybe even 2 projects?
Mm-hmm. Maybe to move a bit more towards the demo day from your Director of Education perspective, because you mentioned that you really appreciate seeing the squads as communities and with their individual sort of feel and what is it that we do.
Yeah.
How does that sort of relate to the demo day as a whole? Because we had the How to Demo meetup, and what a lot of students said was also like, yeah, we really want this community feel, but also as a study, like the squads are, it is important that they do have their own way of expressing it, but we also want to be industrial design towards the outside world.
Yeah.
What is your view on that? Or is that even important in the demo day?
Yeah, it became more important because before it was this internal thing, and then maybe even squad internal, but also community-wise internal. But presenting our internal community can only have value if there's an outside.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked the outside world to come in through clients, through alumni, through maybe moms and dads even. So that's one. And also in the move to Atlas, I think I really want to show the university that this is industrial design. Mm-hmm. Because they don't know. I mean, the only thing that they might see is at Mind to Step. Yeah. And there they see the very curated ones. But here they see the rough potential and the rough energy that industrial design is.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's really a community event with outsiders, and because these outsiders are coming in, then it makes it a community event. Mm-hmm. But we also realize now that there are a lot of other departments or people within other departments interested in what we do within squads.
Okay.
Because that's something
Cool.
that's really new for them. Like, wow, this is so it's not just one layer of second year students. It's in a way a vertical one. So
Yeah.
they're second year students, they're final bachelor students, they're master students, and sometimes they work on projects where PhDs are interested and staff people. And you have something that's what you call an industrial liaison. Yeah, they bring their network of people into this organization, and suddenly they realize, wow, this is an interesting educational setup where you bring some authenticity into the education, because these are not just fictional people, or imagine that you have a client. No, this is the actual client.
Yeah.
And these are, and the outside world is also bringing in their perspective on, wow, really? Do you think that technology is heading into that direction?
Mm-hmm.
Is artificial intelligence already being implemented in product interaction? Wow, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these different forms of communities. It's your small community of your team. It's your team within the community of the squad with different stakeholders in a sense. It's your squad community within the larger community of the department, within its larger community of people that are beneficiaries of our community, alumni, clients, and also now within the TUE environment.
Mm-hmm.
So for the next demo day, I also want to invite the dean of the bachelor college
Mm-hmm.
and the dean of the graduate school to see, like, okay, this is the educational setup of industrial design, and hopefully we can help innovating within educational directions as well through this demo.
Yeah. Is that really an important focal point for you, innovating education?
Yes, because when I started, I promised to
You started
as director of education. Yes, when I started, yes, no, when I started as director of education, I promised to not make any changes for for at least the first 2 years. I think to give some rest to people.
Yeah.
I think everybody was fed up with
Very,
changes.
very necessary.
I think for students, they had been through so many changes, also for staff members,
Yeah.
and also give them the staff members actual space and time again to focus on research.
Mm-hmm.
Not only, maybe for some, to focus on the research because it's important for their career,
Mm-hmm.
which is true, but from my perspective also important to be innovative again,
Yeah.
to do research which can then feed into our education, so the content of industrial design is also moving. But what I also want is to extend our reputation,
Mm-hmm.
and to not be so internally focused. And after this 2 years of stability, I hope that in this stability people feel that it's getting a bit boring.
Yeah, well, you see my project now.
It's getting a bit boring, and out of that people become intrinsically motivated again to start innovating, and whether that's through their research but also through the education.
Yeah.
And I think especially the move to Atlas can really generate this new energy, and also this energy of being innovative again.
Mm-hmm.
In educational setups, and also to explain and communicate these innovative things to an outside world.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the squads. And you quite now see the influence that industrial design has on the larger university. I think there wouldn't have been an innovation space if it wasn't for industrial design.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the plans for Campus 2030 and the education of 2030, then, in my opinion, it really looks like Industrial Design 2000. So.
Could you maybe give a bit more explanation about that, because it's new to me.
Okay, so if you look at the vision for the education of 2030, what they actually wanted is up to 80% of hands-on education.
Mm-hmm.
So that means whether it's hands-on or challenge-based, what they mean is that students are working on authentic projects.
Yeah.
authentic projects with real people involved, with collaboration also. And I think now they want to scale it down to maybe 50% because I think it might not work for some of these other departments. But this is something that we have been doing from day one.
Yeah.
I mean, treating the students as a junior employee, very much student directed, so they can define their own path. And before we had almost 100% freedom for students. Mm-hmm. And now you look at the bachelor college, I mean, there's how much? 45% of freedom, mm-hmm. or 45 ECTS of freedom for other students.
Yeah.
Maybe we went a step back, but they went a step forward. But it shows that we, through our own innovations, can now start inspiring other departments or inspire the vision on education from bachelor college, graduate school, and the TUE. Mm-hmm. Also have a more open campus and really also invite again the surroundings into the on campus and also go outside. Yeah. So students do projects within companies. The teams, the Eindhoven engine, where they really want to see whether inventions that are being done within the university, whether through an engine they can spin out and become entrepreneuring companies to the outside world, or bring outside companies in, like we would like to have this new innovative technology in order to realize something. So I think the university will look more like industrial designers currently. And after these 2 years of stability, I now think it's time to go into a next wave of innovation again.
Do you have some plans for that? Or especially with the move to Atlas also?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how because now students, I mean, especially in Laplace, there's this big separation. I mean, you have the ground floor, which is for students, and you have the top floor, which is for staff members. And there's an exchange on Friday when they move up from their upper floor and move down to the ground floor of students, and there they will actually be working on the same floor in close vicinity to the research labs or to the make labs. And I think that's also quite, I don't know, if you can really have a community around the make lab with students. That the good thing about students, they have a half year in order to realize something. They need to realize something. So the turnover and their production of innovative ideas is far greater than for staff members. Mm-hmm. Of course, a lot of these ideas, they're, yes, good enough for education, but some of these ideas actually spark new innovations. And I hope that the exchange between students making things and researchers thinking about things and theorizing, that there's a better exchange. Mm-hmm. So I really hope that in the new building there we can have these new communities. Mm-hmm. Because what I really liked about the old building is that it was a mess, but if students, yes, and I mean you walk around and people were walking in and they've never been, and they said, like, I just feel the energy here. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is and I cannot grasp it, but I feel an energy of innovation here. Yeah. And that's not so much happening in Laplace, I feel, or it's hidden. Maybe there are hidden pockets of energy, but it's not visible. It is more difficult.
Most of my bachelor was in the main building, and that was just so nice because you could also see the master students doing their thing, and there were also some professors just in the space with you just all the time. Yeah. And then we moved here, and you're in this block with other people from your squads, and you're just separated from everything. I also really noticed it when I moved upstairs. It's like, I don't know what's happening anymore. And I actually don't like it, but I also don't really have the time to make an effort.
Because now it's an effort to see what's going on beyond your own bubble. But I hope that in the new building it's not an effort, but it's just because from your way to the coffee you pass 3 very interesting projects.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you try to find a professor, then you walk past the lab where he's making things. Mm-hmm. So I hope that the energy becomes more transparent and is not so much of an effort, and collaboration happens on a more natural way. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can pass by students 8 times, and the 9th time they put something on the desk where you go like, wow, you're amazing me. But
this looks so good. And
Yes.
it came from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. And I can give you my input, or I can give you my expertise, because I think that's also another important thing where you go like, I really have to comment now on your use of the material. And then people are starting to offer their expertise. Because they feel like what you can bring in, I can't, but it definitely misses what I can bring in, and that exchange is going to go up. So I hope that the move to the new building will really create this new energy, and energy of collaboration and a mutual inspiration between junior employees and senior employees.
This actually sounds really similar to the function of the demo day as you
Yes.
described it.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's all nested. There's this the small thing of demo day, which is part of the new building, and the energy, which is then also the energy that is I hope within the TUE, which is also the energy that is within Brainport, and then hopefully extending even beyond that. So.
So what can we do for our probably last demo day here to maybe already sort of spark this energy? Or what would you like to see for this last demo day, or sort of as a start towards this?
I know what I like about the demo day, but it also says something. Maybe not in this podcast, but we got a lecture on change processes, and with other people from the TUE, and there we noticed that both Miguel and me were on the green and the white side of it, and that meant that we really believe in the changing power of the organization. That we're not really directing, but we believe that the organization is capable of changing themselves if we can take away the barriers that they have and focus on the energy that is in there. So I would like to walk around on the next demo day, not having a clear direction of this is what I want to be the demo day, but I hope that people take up the responsibility. And I think you yourself are a nice example where you make the demo day a focus. And I think what you did together with other people probably for the last demo day was really nice, that you gave it an organization and a bit of a structure that was not too demanding, but also in a way providing some information for other people to know where they should be looking for. What I would like to see is again, and I'm convinced that you and Tom and the people involved will make it one more level of professionalization. And I think especially towards people from the outside, that I think well, their time is also limited, so I think they don't just want to wander around on this big market, but they actually have an idea on, okay, I really want to focus on these topics, or I really want to see the difference between master students and bachelor students, or maybe in the near future that we have a sort of things you need to see, but maybe a squad can direct that a bit more. So I really hope in the organizational power of the people involved, instead of me directing, this is what I want the demo day to be.
Yeah.
I trust the people that are involved. And what I like, and that's why it's a good setup, I mean, people are intrinsically motivated to make a change there.
Yeah.
And they start complaining about certain things, and instead of just complaining...
We're very good at that.
Yes, yeah, but we are also very good at that, right? I mean, we taught you to be... I mean, we are very critical to your work, so you can be critical to our work, which is the demo day.
Yeah.
And instead of only complaining or critiquing, it's in a sense, what I find important, that it's constructive.
Yeah.
Or that it follows with a cycle of construction where you actually change something. And that's, I think, the best way to be critical. I mean, to be critical and then change it. And then, from my perspective as director of education, I should be able to facilitate this. So if people ask, what we really need is resources to have better materials, better presentation materials. If people want to have access to our network of people, to give them one invitation to everybody, and maybe have invitations for people personally, so they can invite their personal guests, but still going maybe through one central point, so these people know how to get in and where to go, and also that they can be identified by by other students.
Yeah, I think that is, at least when I know from students, is apparently there are people from the industry, and I think really for our graduates, a lot of them will be looking for a job. Basically, all staff members I spoke to, they're like, yeah, I'm inviting people, and this one's coming, and this one's coming, and I'm like, we did not know this. I think that for us at least, that
I'm also a bit hesitant with that because
no, it's not like you should. It's not like we need to have a list of these people who are coming, but yeah, in a way to make the communication between staff and graduate students more open. Like, okay, I'm doing a project on this. I'm looking for work in this, obviously.
Yeah.
That people could maybe connect over that a bit more. That would be nice.
But I also want people to give a presentation on their work as if it was the investor of your next project. And it might be just the grandpa or of a fellow student.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you don't know what they're doing.
But you don't know what they're doing. So, I mean, give the presentation as if this person is going to hire you.
Yeah.
So to be one and to be, I mean, to treat everybody in the same way, but also to become sensitive, like, okay, maybe through my questioning or what I present, I can assume like, okay, this is just the grandparent of a fellow student who happened to walk around, or whether this is the marketing manager or the R&D manager of this big company.
Yeah, it was really funny because I was talking, I think, to someone's dad last demo day, and I wasn't sure whether it was family, but he did something in direction that was really related to my project, so we had a super interesting discussion, and then his daughter, one of the fellow students, was like, oh yeah, I saw you were talking to my dad. I was like, is that your dad? I thought it was an industry person.
But that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
So,
maybe to sort of start rounding up the conversation. This is a question that I've asked all staff members. If you have to present one of your own projects at the demo day, it could be a project that you did or are working on right now, how would you present it, and why would you present it that way? And also introduce the projects first.
I know, I always, I mean, if people come over, I always present the Wearable Sensors Lab. And it's something we have achieved over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
but this is about a project that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I need to do
like
somebody else's project.
No. Like you mentioned for your PhD, you were working
Oh,
on
okay.
clock, so
Oh, wow.
really, one of your own projects.
One of my own projects, okay. Yeah, but I consider the Wearable Sensors Lab also one of my own projects, but it's a bit bigger.
It's sort of to place you in the student
Yeah.
perspective.
No, the alarm clock, it was working.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is to.
Can you maybe tell a bit more?
Okay,
about what the project is?
it's the alarm clock with the 12 sliders, and the idea was that people could express their emotions into the way they were interacting with the alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is let people first show them a little movie to make them either in a positive feeling or in a very annoyed feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and then ask them to set the alarm clock. And then I would show them a different movie, and then ask them again to change the alarm clock, and then show the differences between the two. First, let the person have their own personal experience, and then I would frame it in the entire story, and then show the research results behind it. So first, let them focus on the thing in front of them and their own experience, and then frame their own experience in the larger picture of the research.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also for students to really use the setting that they have to direct the attention, and also to be able to tell the story how they want to tell the story.
Yeah.
So if they want to focus on the experience of the prototype first, and then explain the larger story, that they're capable of doing it. Mm-hmm. Or they can start with the bigger story first, and then let people experience it. And then maybe have some additional material to maybe a sheet with all the numbers and the statistics in the case to demonstrate the research behind it, but also knowing that not everybody is interested in the statistics, but then also have the material ready that led to the design of the alarm clock and maybe show the sketches and the prototypes through images. Mm-hmm. So in a way that you can tell different stories to different people. And that you, through the demo day, learn to understand what is the best story that I can tell to the person that I'm talking to.
Yeah, and also which people best align with the story.
Yes, yeah.
It's really a big user
testing. Yeah. And sometimes you can direct it, sometimes you can also let the person you're talking to direct it, because you often feel from what the person is focusing on, so their attention is, they're looking at the poster and they're looking at the statistics, for example. Mm-hmm. Then I know I don't have to tell the story of how the prototype developed. Yeah. But for other people, they might look at the prototype and look more at the detailing, and then they can explain a bit more. So you have different material ready for when you need it, in order to best present the story behind the value of your demonstration.
Well, I think the circle is round. Thank you very much for sharing all your insights and perspectives.
Good. You're welcome.
Thanks again so much to Stephan for joining me for this episode of How to Demo. So did our conversation get you thinking? Maybe it got you excited, or you have some great ideas for improving the demo day? In each case, I would love to hear from you. You can contact me via Facebook or Instagram at Laura Peters, send an email to info@laurapeters.com, or just come say hi in the graduate space. How to Demo is a Studio Het is Ik production made possible by lots of awesome people at Industrial Design. A special shout out to the Kid Salim, Beeks and Lil Showcase for letting me use their song Demo Day as soundtrack for the podcast. And thank you most of all, my epic listeners. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll meet you in the next and final episode of How to Demo.
Vanavond heel veel plezier. Have fun, joh. Peace.